Hi art friends, Miss B here. Welcome to week 8 of art. So far, we've studied the elements of art: line, shape, and color. Today we're going to be learning about and focusing on our fourth element of art, space. This is a quick little project that will require you to illustrate two different kinds of space: positive space and negative space. Think of it as less of an art project and more like a little study on space. The element of space can be tricky. When artists refer to space in their artwork, they're usually talking about one of three different kinds of space. The element of space can be the stuff you don't actually draw at all, but to be a great artist, you need to understand space and be aware of it in your artwork. Check out this short video on the element of space and the three different kinds of space.
The element of space is a bit tricky. When artists and designers talk about space, they might actually be talking about three distinctly different things. There's 3D space, positive and negative space, and white space. 3D space refers to the spatial reality of width, height, and depth, or XYZ. To render a sense of 3D space on a flat 2D plane, artists make use of 1 or 2 point perspectives, where vanishing points create the illusion of Z-depth. But even without vanishing points, whenever objects are layered in front or behind each other, some sense of 3D depth in space is implied. Okay, deep thought. It's not possible to draw one thing on a page. You see, anything you draw is both adding a new shape onto the page and subtracting from the original white shape of the page itself. So you're really creating two shapes, one that's added and one that's being subtracted. Artists and designers have long made use of positive and negative space to provide a sense of cleverness. Next, there is white space, or the spacing between objects. Such spacing of objects is a huge part of what we call composition. A lot of space can add to the visual weight of an object. A little space can make objects feel crowded. Consistent spacing feels orderly, logical, and can provide a sense of calm. Random spacing can feel chaotic or playful. And so it is that space, the stuff you don't actually draw at all, can be a key element of art.
Okay friends, so you will need very few materials to study space for this lesson. You will need your sketchbook or a sheet of white paper, a pencil, a Sharpie, something to color with, and finally an object to trace or draw. You want this object to have a good shape to it. You don't have to trace it, you can just draw it. If you decide to draw the object, you do have to draw it twice and draw at the same time each time. Here are some examples you could use: a flower, a glue bottle, scissors, a large paintbrush, your hand, even a bottle of hand sanitizer. The first thing you'll do is get your sketchbook and trace your object twice. If you trace scissors like I'm doing, be careful because they're sharp. Here's a little trick for tracing. Tilt your pencil in towards the object so the lead stays right on the edge of the object. If you tilt your pencil out, the object will look a lot wider than it really is. Now we're going to draw the positive space. Remember, positive space is the object that takes up space. Look closely at your object and identify where you need to draw more lines. Try to get as many details as you can, and fix the shape of the object if you need to. I outline my objects with a Sharpie just to make them stand out a little more. You can use whatever you have on hand to add color if you choose to. My scissors were blue and silver. With my blue crayon, I am lightly layering color in. Then I'll look at my object again and color a little harder where there's shadow on the object. I'm being really careful to only color in the positive space, so this is a lesson where you need to go slow, take your time, and stay in the lines. See how I'm slowly layering my color so the color is gradually darkening? Oops, I guess I was pressing too hard because my crayon broke. That's okay, broken crayons still color. I won't let that little line bother me either. I was lucky enough to find a silver crayon, but gray would have worked just fine. I'm using the same technique. This technique is actually called pressure shading. I'm gradually building up layers of color, trying to make sure I capture all the little details of my positive space, or the scissors. Now I'm going to work on the negative space, which is really easy. It's just the space around the scissors. You can color this however you want. I decided to stay with my blues and just create a blended sort of background. You don't have to worry about any of the details on the object because we're not focusing on the scissors. We're focusing on the space around the scissors. That's the negative space. Here's another example I did of a large paintbrush. I only used pencil for this example because I wanted to really try to focus on the details of the paintbrush. I still outlined the shape of the paintbrush and tried to capture the texture of the bristles at the top by making some really soft lines. I'm looking really closely to see where the lines are on the ferrule of the brush. That's the metal part. If you look closely, you can see the ferrule has a 2.5 on it. That's the size of the paintbrush, so I'm going to carefully try to draw that. I'm trying my best to draw exactly what I see. If a detail is too small, you can skip it like I did the smaller numbers on this paintbrush. Okay, now for the negative space. I just used my pencil to carefully shade around the shape. I filled in a hole since that's still considered negative space. I went really slow and tried to apply the same amount of pressure on my pencil all the way around. After I finished, I went back in and shaded in another direction so there weren't any white spaces. I used my finger to soften the edges of my shading as well, trying to be careful not to get any in the white space. I labeled this example just to show that I understand the difference between positive and negative space too. Okay friends, that's it for this short lesson or study on space. Like we learned in the video, there's 3 different kinds of space. Today we focused on positive and negative space. Next week, we'll talk more about 3D space by creating a landscape. Upload a photo of your lesson to Artsonia in the gallery called Positive and Negative Space. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and I hope you enjoy making art with me while we're apart. Bye!